struggling. I am Carl. I am a addict, alcoholic, and German Shepherd dog, and my sobriety date is August 22nd, 2014. And you are?
I am Lindsey. I'm an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is September 6th, 2015.
Soberpod.com.
This is SoberPod.
Yeah, SoberPod, keep it authentic, no facades. If it's real, then you know it's ours. Welcome.
SoberPod is a podcast dedicated to the idea that one addict or alcoholic helping another is crucial to building a life in recovery. Join us this season as we read from our books, 366 Effing Days Sober, and Lindsey's book, Spirit Vigilante. And you can get both of those books in whatever order you like, but go to soberpod.com and you can get 366 Effing Days Sober. Still selling. I think it's the holiday rush, by the way. And then Lindsey's book, The Spirit Vigilante, you can go to thespiritvigilante.com and pick up her book, as well as all the other things that you're doing. Hey, which, by the way, what are you doing? You're doing stuff. You are very active.
I don't know.
You got stuff coming up
What
for the
am I
new
doing?
year. You're like doing like the Artist Way workshop
do.
or something. Talk about that, because I love the Artist Way. And when you were doing that, I was like, it's like a whole year-long thing that you're doing, right?
It is.
Talk about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So when I teach, I really try to listen to my students and kind of collect data as I teach all of these workshops. And so many people, I probably mention the Artist Way in every writing class I teach. And so many people have heard of it, don't really know what it is, or they've had it on their shelf collecting dust, but they're too scared to do it. Maybe they started but couldn't stick with it. So I'm like, maybe there's something to this. Let's do this as a community. So I actually did it this past year on my own, kind of piloting a program for it. And the group stayed together. We have our last meeting. It's normally, for anyone who's unfamiliar, it's normally a 12-week program, and I expand it into 12 months and do it as a group. So now I'm really excited because the Writers Center has accepted my proposal to offer it there. So it will be exposed to a much wider platform. So that's a little bit, it's a path through creativity and spirituality. And I have an info session coming up on it on Tuesday, December 16th at 7 p.m., just a free virtual info session for people who want to learn more about it, see if it's a good fit for them. But I'm really excited.
I cannot recommend it any higher. It is really like a good program, especially if like you're into 12-step recovery. It reinforces all of those behaviors and concepts that we learn in 12-step world. So it's kind of a cool deal. So can't recommend it any higher. Okay, so Lindsey, what are we doing today? We're not necessarily reading from the books, right? I think we're just we're just jumping in. I think something happened a couple days ago, and I didn't even notice. Look, if you are listening, I don't check Twitter. I just use it to or X or whatever you want to call it these days. I just use it to kind of promote stuff and send stuff out and, get the book, that kind of stuff. And I'm not highly engaged. Like if you really want to highly engage with people, I think going over to our Facebook group, our SoberPod Live Facebook group, is probably the better way if you want to engage or talk or have others engage you as well. We used to be really strong on Twitter, and then we stopped. But 2 days ago, I got a message, and I just found it today, which is really kind of sad. Makes me sad to think about somebody reaches out, and I'm 2 days late to the table, right? But let me just say, somebody reached out and they said, and I'm not going to name names. If you want to figure it out, go on over to X and get their handle if you want. I did reply on there, but this is what they said. They said at SoberPod is really what we are on X. It says, I'm struggling. I'm only starting my recovery. It says, I'm only starting my recovery from drugs, but my anxiety leads to chronic panic attacks, which led to me to rush to the Coke again. Right, and that's not Coca-Cola. I just want to make sure that we're very clear. It's not Coca-Cola. I rush to the Coke again. I have no support or friends. I'm an Irish lady of 44 years. I'm reaching out. Guys, and then she gave her WhatsApp, and I guess it's that kind of reach out is the same kind of reach out I did when I got initially was getting sober on Reddit, stop drinking, right? And and I totally understand it. It's this like it's just this I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do with my hands now that I'm sober, and there's so much behind this, and it's not just like I just think the first words say it so succinctly. I'm struggling, right? And it's just such a I feel so distant from it at times, right? So, Lindsey, what do you feel when you hear that kind of stuff or when you read that kind of post?
I feel a lot of things. What I feel is that remembrance of that feeling of just that ultimate surrender, like help me, and I applaud anybody who does that. And if you think about it just at a very animalistic level, whenever any being is in some kind of danger, they cry for help. And so you think of that, like, who are we crying out to? We know someone or something is there to help us. So I think it's a very natural response. And I'm really, really glad that it happened. And I'm always so grateful when someone reaches out to me in any capacity looking for help, because that is why we are here. This is why Carl and I do this podcast week after week. We are here for you. Why are we so passionate about that? Because we have had people extend their hands to us and we want to give back. I don't want to speak for Carl, but that's how I feel. So it's like the flip side of the coin is it brings me back to that place and also gives me another opportunity to be of service to someone else, while also helping remind me of my own personal struggles with this disease.
Yeah. What if nobody was there when you reached out, right? It's like, that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, I just like, it happened for me. It's something that I think I definitely want to be available for, no doubt about that stuff. So that's kind of why that's why we continue to do this stuff. So I guess, one of the things I responded to was, that it does take guts to do this. And anxiety is a very real and drawing thing that pulls you back. And though you can get like certain legs underneath you for initially getting sober, it's those initial things that I was speaking for myself, I didn't know how to cope with when I got sober. So I tell people a lot, I paced my home like I was a caged panther, man. I was ready to I didn't know what to do. I just wound up tight in everything about that. I did not know how to handle literally just being physically sober, and it was very painful. And the anxiety and the fear and the all the stuff that comes with it, and the uncertainty of what am I going to do tomorrow, or am I going to make it another day? And it is very how I did that, by the way, was I reached out to other people and I got to break off a little bit of their hope so I could grow my own. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping that this person hears in this episode, is that really I'm just trying to give you a little bit more hope that that it's possible, that that it can happen. And and I don't know what I love the fact that she's like, and I'm Irish, and I'm like, oh, yeah, because being Irish is fucking harder to get sober, it's like, because we Irish, we love our cocaine, and without it, we just can't get by.
Stop! It's giving Mike and Nova Scotia vibes, right?
Exactly. I just think it's funny that it's like that being Irish has something to do with it. Being Irish has nothing to fucking do with it, but I just think it's awesome. But
I
what
think
it does have to do. Go ahead.
I just think it was more of an introduction.
No, I totally know, but it's
yeah.
It's so I mean, I guess I just think that it's kind of ironic. It's like, and I also like
Of
M&Ms if
course.
that has anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're here, I want to know, Carl, what anxiety means for you. When you talk about that anxiety and that caged panther, how did that, if the word anxiety didn't exist, what would you express that emotion as?
I think it's very clearly like in AA terms, right? They always talk about being restless, irritable, and discontent. You know, I think that is a very large part. You know, and also, you know, when I think about the anxiety in the way that I don't fit in my own skin, I want out of my own skin. If I could just cut my skin off and wither away, I would. I just absolutely don't want to be in my own mind or body with that kind of an anxiety. So I guess the other thing is that I have to understand where that's coming from, right? Especially in early sobriety, in the first week, 2 weeks or whatever. Like when I'm struggling like that and I want to get out of my own skin, like I need to know where that's coming from. One, I'm not used to it. I'm not used to feeling the feelings that are there. I have a different engine running now, and I don't like the way it sounds, you know. And I need to understand that I'm like a child, you know. Like it's almost just like learning to walk, and everything is going to be hypersensitive. Everything is going to be under a different microscope because I'm just not used to feeling the way that this is going to feel. I'm used to checking out. I'm used to whenever this stuff comes up, I'm used to just, you know, self-medicating. And then one of the things I heard in the rooms early on, somebody said, it's not my job to feel good. It's my job to feel fully. And I was just like, oh, that like totally, like I resonate with that because it means that like I now have to feel all of it regardless of how uncomfortable I am, right? Like regardless of whatever that looks like, it's now my job to experience it and feel it. And sometimes you talk about it, Lindsey. It's like that's the data you're receiving. You're starting to like take on more data, and that's really what that is about feeling fully. It's like you have to get interested and curious about how you feel and what it means to feel it completely and fully, like what it means to like explore those feelings that you used to just run away from and medicate and hide from. So yeah, it's a those first few weeks are the absolute hardest, and I totally relate to where this Irish lady is coming from. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and it's one of those things where this shouldn't be comfortable for us. Like in fact, we are made very uncomfortable in order to undergo this psychic and moral change that we hear about. So I was watching a Tony Robbins thing recently, and this was part of a larger theme, but he said, your biggest problem is thinking you shouldn't have any. So
your biggest problem is thinking that you shouldn't have any problems?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
So like, this notion of chasing happiness all the time, and we're meant to be happy all the time, and we shouldn't feel this way, is like not accurate. We were given a wide range of emotions for a reason, and it's learning to live with them. And you said something about kind of understanding why it's happening. And sometimes when you're in the moment in an acute state and just doing damage control, sometimes it doesn't matter why in that moment. Yes, if it's a recurring pattern and issue, let's get to it when we're in a space to explore that. But especially in early sobriety, like the content isn't as important as doing a healthy thing to make you feel better in that moment, which the theme of this episode is reaching out to somebody else. You know, it can be a number of things, going to a meeting, writing. But I just want to say that because at the beginning I was very like, why me? Why? Going back to childhood and all of my labels, generalized anxiety disorder being one of them. And so it's like people get stuck on those labels and those whys and the origins of all of our issues. And it's like in this moment, we let's just shelve that. So I just want to say that I wish someone had told me that, or maybe they probably did, but I wish I had heard that early on and really listened to, like, you don't need to boil the ocean.
Yeah. What came first, the chicken or the keg, right? It's like,
Correct.
the fact is, like, I don't care
1,000%.
I just know that I'm having an issue. So so putting out the dumpster fire is first, right? And then and then maybe we can actually move to the house fire. But which is true. So I mean, it gives you a little grace. It gives you a little way to understand that, like, it's not all going to be fixed right now. It's not going to, it's just not going to happen. And so I guess I would say that in, like, retrospect, like, once you do find some steady ground, as unsteady as it may feel, you do start to look at those things, because you're going to have that anxiety. You're going to have that natural coping pattern until you find a way to deal with the underlying issues, is kind of what I was saying. So, so I guess, and the other thing is just to reinforce, it's like, this is very normal, right? It's like the way in which this person is feeling is absolutely, like, exactly how we all felt. Like, there's no, again, I'm pacing my home like a caged panther and like a overfilled balloon that I could pop any second, and that's really it. Like, there's no, and that, I guess the worst part of that is that, like, unless you're doing things like you're talking about, kind of triage, right? Going to a meeting, picking up a phone, maybe, it's in the old days, by the way, in my time when I was a very young man. So
the Gilded Age.
So they had, instead of the internet, we had phone numbers, right? Go figure. And they still have phone numbers, right? So you can literally today call your local, anonymous chapter, XA, whatever that is. So it could be AA, it could be NA, it could be CA. And I always like to make the joke, it could be tits and A, but that's a different story. So, so you go to, you call those numbers, and they have people set up to, it's a chain of command, in a sense. That's why these organizations exist. If you go and pick up and call the number, they will put you in touch with somebody potentially more local that will come and even pick you up to go to a meeting. These people are out here. I've been a recipient of a phone call from some dude in Idaho who was on a list, who knew that I was in this area, and I picked up a dude and brought him to his first meeting, right? Like, I was just like, all right, I guess I'll go and do that, right? And I've even gotten the phone call, which I really loved, a year later, because I gave him my number, of course, like you do. And, so I took him back to the house or wherever he was at after the meeting. And then a year later, he called me and he goes, "Hey, you may not remember me." And I'm like, "You're right, I don't," because it's whatever. And he said, "A year ago to this day, you brought me to my first meeting. And I just wanted to call and say thank you for doing that," right? And that's the kind of the stuff that's out there for people. There are people like me on the street waiting to take you to your first meeting.
Yes.
I mean, like, that's it. Like, that's how it works. And so
true.
If you're reaching out online and you're doing that kind of stuff, just know that for me to be more accountable, or to actually have actionable accountability, I needed people in my physical local area, and I needed to go into rooms of recovery in order to experience the humanity that exists there, right? I did it online to start, but I really started to change when I started to get in touch with people, physical people in the world, and I was more accountable, having to show up every week or whatever to do that kind of stuff. So, but it took me reaching out. It took me going and having the courage to do that. And that's super hard too. Like, Hey, Lindsey, what was your first meeting like? Did you actually, do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. What was it like?
I went late. I left early, and I stayed on the outside pews and
It was
didn't
a church?
say a word to anyone.
Okay. And then, so what was it like just looking up the location to go to that thing? How did you feel doing that?
So actually, someone who on Facebook had their status as 1 year sober, and it was this guy that I used to party with a lot. And he actually told me, like, I'm not in the area anymore, because I messaged him, was like, what do you mean you're sober? Like, I thought it was a joke. And then I was like, I'm kind of think I might have a problem. And then he was like, I'm not in the area right now, but my mom is, and she's in the program. Meet her at this meeting at this time. So it was complete like handoff. And I did say hi to her there, but then like, actually, I can't remember if I actually interacted with her at that meeting, but then we eventually did go to a meeting together. But I just wanted to say I'm really grateful. First of all, why wouldn't I be uncomfortable if the one thing that was giving me, if I was struggling before and the only thing that would help that struggling at all and make me comfortable was a drink that is now being removed from me? Like, if I'm comfortable with that, then I didn't have as much a problem as I thought. Now I'm just so grateful. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with my voice. I'm just so grateful that I was in enough pain to cry out for help, because that's when the change really started happening. Because at the beginning I was like, I'm going to do this all myself. Fine, I'll go to the meetings, but I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't need any help. And then making that first phone call when I was like, I do need the help, was really when relief started to set in. So, it might feel like the worst time in the world for you that you're having to call someone, but just know that it's such a gift to us, and you're giving yourself such a gift that you won't even understand until the change starts happening within you. So you just have to trust us for now.
Yeah, I wanted to understand like what the mindset that like got you into going to that first meeting, because it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like for me, like I drove around. I actually looked it up. The first time I considered going, I was only available on Tuesdays because my schedule was so busy, and so I was only available on Tuesdays like late at night, right, or whatever. And so I looked up a meeting, and I drove by it the previous week before, and like circled just to cruise the parking lot, just to make sure that my caliber of people, right? Yeah. and then I went the following week, and it took me a little bit to go there as well, right? Like it really was like I had to mentally prepare myself. It like 2 weeks more basically before I actually decided I'm going to walk into this location. And
I'm sure I did some of that too. There was like I skipped a lot of the story of reaching out to him, and then finally.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. Like, so what did you do? Did you do all that same stuff? Did you look it up? Did you understand what you were getting into?
I didn't look it up. He had just texted me the address of the meeting and maybe his mom's phone number to meet up with her. But I had no idea. What I was getting into. I didn't even know it was about not drinking. Like, I thought you would just go and you still drink, but like you get better.
They're going to teach you how to drink better? Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't know the real thing. But I found out at that meeting because someone was celebrating 25 years sober, and there was a big cake, and I just felt like I was on another planet. Like, who would ever celebrate that? I couldn't even wrap my head around it. Truly. I couldn't imagine one day without alcohol. So why would someone celebrate 25 years?
I'm curious because I really do feel sorry for women walking into AA meetings, because to me it's like it's such a guys are terrible. Guys are the fucking worst, and I actually just every time I see a dude do it, I just want to poke their fucking eyes out, because it just is like when a newcomer's walking in, especially a woman, and they're vulnerable and they're in pain and they have that anxiety, and to be confronted by dudes who are fucking trying to hit on them, like I just can't, like my mind just does not understand what is going on there. So can you talk to me about the sensitivity around that and what I'm sure you got, like, was there a dude in that first meeting who was like, what's your name? Did that shit happen? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what was that like?
That meeting, I didn't talk to anyone, but then it started happening at other meetings. I don't know why I took suggestions, but I was told not to get involved with a guy. I made a couple of guy friends, and that actually turned out to be good guys. One of whom I still talk to. And like I said, this does not match my MO up until this point, but I really did focus on my sobriety. I even got rid of the guys in my life who I had been dating and, ruining their lives and holding hostage. I set them free too, and was like, I need to focus on me. And that is not, it doesn't make sense that I made that decision, but I got a sponsor and I started listening to everything she told me to do. And I was like, I can't mess this up. And there was one guy, I don't know if it varies by region. It's not in our literature or anything, but people usually say to be sober for a year before dating or entertain it if you're single, obviously.
You're talking about actually reciprocal dating. I'm talking about predatory behavior from men in meetings, because it does happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
is that what you wanted me to talk more about?
Yeah, because
well, I guess where I was going was like,
here,
thankfully I wasn't in a space where I was like open to any kind of exchange with them.
And you exuded that or something? You're like, leave me alone.
It's so weird because like once I made that decision, like people stopped effing with me. I don't know if it was like how I carried myself, and it's still kind of today. Like people can tell, especially you're talking about people with predatorial tendencies, they can tell, they're not going to waste their time with me. I think I was pretty clear, I'm not saying every single day, and there were definitely times, but you do have to be careful. We call it like 13th stepping, and it's horrible. I hate seeing it. I try to prevent it and speak up about it as much as I can. I mostly go to women's meetings now, but as it's relevant, I will bring it up in men and women's meetings, and just kind of like a cautionary tale for the women, and then like a what the F are you doing for the men. I have no problem speaking up to that, because I'm very passionate about it. I think it's really important. So I luckily, thank God, wasn't involved in anything predatorial, but I know many, many are and continue to be. So you definitely do have to be.
Yeah,
so with that said, like, just skip it. Just skip the men for now. You know what I mean?
Well, for sure, no doubt. I mean, first of all, whoever wants you at that early stage in recovery is probably pretty sick, because look at what they're getting. And then the other thing is, and that's on both ends of the sexual spectrum there. But then again, I just want to make sure that, like, caveat, if I'm telling people to go to meetings, I want them to understand the reality of those things. Every time you read this stuff online, it's like, there's like, again, it's a cult, or, that there's sexual predators. There's even a whole movie called like 13th Step or something like that. The fact is that going to an AA meeting is just like going to your local church, or going to your local supermarket, or going to any kind of public endeavor, right? There is going to be good people, bad people. There's going to be like people, and again, you're at this, I think, a very vulnerable moment. You're looking for help, but I still would like the people that are looking for help to be more discerning and be more conservative about the people that they're seeking help from. Go for a couple meetings. Don't just go there and suddenly jump in and just be like, yes, I'm going to do everything that they tell me, because who knows who's telling you that, right? You want to make sure that you watch people's actions, that you're observing, that you're paying attention to how they treat other people, and getting to know people before you start doing that. So audit the meetings. In ACA, they talk about it. It's in their literature. They say go to 6 consecutive meetings before you make a decision about continuing to come here and be a part of this group. So you're free to come and just talk, listen, be a part of it, but 6 consecutive meetings. Like, go once a week for 6 weeks and see how it feels, right? And that's just like so even if you're not completely sober or maintaining sobriety, you could totally go to meetings and just, like, as long as you're not speaking while you're drunk, you will probably, more than likely, you won't get shut out and you won't get kicked out or whatever, right? So I think it's just important that I make sure that if I'm telling people, yeah, go to a meeting or look up meetings in your area, just to understand that there's everyday hazards in every meeting, just like there's everyday hazards when you leave your front door of your house. That's just important. Like that.
And think of it, we're like a room of very sick people. So
now we're concentrated.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've heard a lot of things like 2 sickies don't make a wellie. And if you're within 6 months of sobriety and you met someone in treatment and you think you're in love, you're not.
And it's the only asylum run by the inmates kind of a thing. And that's
exactly. Exactly. And I understand the allure of that, of like, oh, we're both so damaged. Let's help each other get better. Like it's a very romantic concept. Very romantic.
It just reminds me of like Sid and Nancy, how they both, the Sex Pistols. Yeah. So I guess moving into solution, right, Lindsey? So like what would your advice be? Yeah, go to meetings and da da da. What else would you tell that person who's struggling right now? And keep in mind, holidays are coming up, like so people are going to be listening to this over the holiday too. Like what would you tell somebody who's really struggling in this Irish lady's 44-year-old moment? Like what suggestions would you give this person?
Outside of going to meetings and like taking suggestions and calling people, like on top of that, don't drink, because it's not going to make anything that you're dealing with any better. Because then you're going to have 2 problems: the problem you have, and then the fact that you drink. Yeah. So no matter what, sounds so simple, but don't drink no matter what. And reassess tomorrow and see how you feel then. But today, don't drink or do drugs. That's what I would say first off. That's what I think is most important. And then to be honest, I would need to kind of hear what they're struggling with, because I don't think any of this is a one size fits all. So I would want to know more details of what's important to them, what they're like. Anxiety and a panic attack, I think, can sometimes. I appreciate words and labels, because as humans, we need to figure out how to categorize things in our brains, or else we'd be explaining things for so long. I also think they trap us in a little bit of a way. So that doesn't give me too much information about what's really going on. So I would really just try to listen and understand, and then use my experience and anything I can relate to help them and walk them through it.
Yeah, I think I'm very selfish about saying I feel very grateful that I'm not in that same position today, right? Like, but I also had to do, like you said, everybody's very unique. Everybody has a very unique set of circumstances or why they're doing what they do. But we also have a lot of very similar expressions.
For sure. Yeah.
And again, I had a lot of fear and anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. I think a lot of it too is like, we talk about in step 6 and 7, if you take away those defects of character, well, who will I be? It's kind of like the hole in the donut. Like, oh my gosh, if I'm not this person, if I'm not coping with drugs, alcohol, and whatever negative behaviors, well, then who will I become? You know what I mean? So a lot of that is very fearful me. Like and to be honest, I didn't know who I was. Right. So I didn't even know, so that kind of logic kind of goes out the window. I just want to point that out if you're really examining it. So if I was going to give this person any kind of like, I don't know, hope or,
what would you say?
Yeah, it would be that, don't be afraid to reach out, of course, but be discerning. Online, there are a ton of resources that are completely like available right now. Online meetings are a thing. You can actually just log into a meeting, and again, you still have to, depending on that meeting, you have to abide by, maybe you have to turn your camera on because they're maybe not trusting of getting photo or Zoom bombed or whatever. So audit those meetings. Just listen to this. If there's speaker talks, there's a ton of speaker talks out there that you can absolutely like listen to. Yeah, go to I think Sobercast is one, and then there's this really good podcast, Sober Pod,
I
this
love
one,
that one.
and if you go back
So
to like the
good.
very first episode and just start listening from there, you're gonna get a lot of inspiration on how to manage your daily life. There's a the podcast titled New Beginnings, and I think it's from March of 2022, maybe. And so we had to delete our previous catalog, but that's where it starts, is at New Beginnings. And so there we have a podcast. We review the book Living Sober, and in those topics, there are like literally like very core, basic like things about remaining sober, like eating hard candies, for instance, or getting enough sleep, or again,
What to do at a wedding.
yeah, what to do
Yeah.
at parties or going to holidays,
Yeah.
or all those other types of
Yeah.
things are in that book. And so we listen to that chapter, and then we discuss our experience with those. And it's me and Chelsea who actually go through that whole book. So, so there's a ton of online resources available for you. Never mind the readings. Buy a recovery book. I don't even care what kind of recovery book. There was like one book that I read. I forget what it was. It was like Recovery 2.0 or something. And I remember reading.
I read
and
that too.
Yeah, and I got like a ton of like little like things. And then again, emotional sobriety. When I was 6 months sober, I started reading those types of things too, so I could understand a little bit more about like, oh, this is what I'm really lacking. So
Yeah.
so there is a journey and there's a path. Oh, the other thing is on soberpod.com, if you're a member, you can go to SoberPod University, and then I do like this whole overview there of like basically a journey through recovery, like what other areas or modalities of recovery that you can go to. So whether it be smart recovery or rational recovery or AA or NA or whatever I go through all of these things. I talk about like extending your like personal approach and how you operate on a daily basis, and building community, building resources, utilizing government resources as well for all of these things. And it's all there to like click away, right? So
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I think at the beginning, like I just consumed all the content I could about sobriety and now that I look back, I'm so glad I did that, because I needed to replace my brain, like what was in my brain, which was pretty much nothing. But I had to start like reading that language, and now there's probably even just infinite more than there was 10 years ago. But yeah, I started like reading blogs of people that had gotten sober, and reading books and watching videos, and like just like you said, kind of auditing, like be the scientist and see like just gather that data and observe, and you'll find a lot, especially if you're definitely go to like credible, reputable sources like soberpod.com.
Well, I don't know if it's credible or reputable, but either way.
It is. Carl has a lot of really good content on there.
I do want to talk about something that you just talked about, which is very much like kind of a transition into this, which is, we do not have an emotional vocabulary, or let alone like an understanding of, recovery as a whole, right? So when we're first getting sober, we don't really understand. So that's kind of part of what we're talking about, is to try and absorb as much of the culture, the language, and the understanding and the overall concepts about getting into recovery. And there's subsets within all that stuff. There can be like other issues that you may have to deal with that you are maybe not even completely aware of. We talk, like you said, we talk about a panic attack. Well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like in my case, like, I would have like complex PTSD reactions, and it's not necessarily a panic attack, but it's definitely it's a stress disorder. So now sorry, you have more noise going on too. What is that?
I can't hear anything.
Oh,
a trash truck.
Oh, taking out the trash. It sounds about right. All right. So, okay. I think it went away.
Me?
It went away.
Am I the trash?
No, I said, I don't know.
Oh.
Whatever's taking out trash. So I could be having like a PTSD reaction, and yet I don't maybe have the vocabulary to know to say that. So I just call it a panic attack, right? Because to me, it's
such
like
a good point.
So there's ways. So if you're listening and you're absorbing and trying to take on that like kind of recovery culture, you'll get more. You'll be able to help yourself better by understanding the words and concepts that people are using. So the next time you reach out or that you want to engage with somebody, you'll have better words to say. I once called a therapist. I love this. I love this story. This is the best story ever. I was having issues with everybody in my life. I was early sobriety. I was like, I don't know, 6-7 months, and I was difficult with everybody. I was like, I was listening to this therapist, and he was like in Seattle or something, and I didn't know what the problems were. I really didn't. I was having problems and issues with everybody, but I had no understanding. I literally called this dude. He was giving me an intake, and he asked me one question. And he was one of us too. But he was a therapist, right? So, but he was just willing to help, and he didn't want to charge me necessarily. He just wanted to kind of push the question. He said, what is the problem? Because I was ranting, right? And I was just like, it's this, that, this, the other. And he was like, but what is the problem? And I was just like, I don't know. Let me call you back.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And I was, but it was like, it was everything and it was nothing all at the same time. But because I was so restless and because I couldn't hear and I wasn't in tune with my own thoughts, right? I couldn't.
Like so disconnected.
Yeah. So he asked me a couple times, so what is the problem, right? And I'm just, and I'm like, because I'm sober, right? And I'm like, I should have said, because I'm sober.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Being sober is the real problem here, right? So, so yeah, it was. It took a while before my head came out of my ass, but either way, that's a real thing, right? Like that's a real situation where, like, I'm 6 months sober, but I still don't know how to be in my own body. So I guess that's the side note there is that time takes time, right? It's going to take some time to get a handle on shit, especially when early sobriety and for even a length of time in sobriety. If you're struggling, you might be on the struggle bus for a while, and it's just a matter of holding on and grabbing that chair and not letting go and just riding that fucking storm. Yay, welcome to sobriety.
Yeah.
Good times.
Great times.
Hey, for the rest of you that just like hit pause and went to the liquor store, I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah, I mean, like you all see Carl and I, we laugh a lot. We can express ourselves. We can have philosophical conversations. I just want you to know, and I can only speak for myself, that was not me in my active alcoholism. So we talk about how hard these things are. Yes. And because we've sat with that discomfort and have a little bit of experience with it, we have the freedom to make choices today on how we do want to spend our time and spend our lives. And that's the gift. That's the big difference.
And that's no longer struggling. That's literally when you have the ability to make that choice, you're no longer struggling. You have options. But until you actually acquire that knowledge and understanding and you put in the hard time to get that stuff, which we did, then you have choices and options, and then it's not so hard anymore because you understand how easy that choice is some days. It can be hard some days too, but it's pretty easy. Yeah.
And you also, this sounds silly, but I say it to my clients, like, do you want to stop struggling? Do you want to solve the problem? For a long time,
you really
I didn't.
want to. Not just a question like, do you want to? Because, of course,
right.
Intellectually, you'll say,
of course
yes. I do, duh. But do
like,
you really want to?
Yeah. Like, you're still hanging on to this for a reason. It served a purpose up to this point. You really are you ready to let it go? And that's an important question. You have to get really honest with yourself about that.
Yeah, and I love that, too, because that statement or that idea, that concept, by the way, not only does that relate in just kind of like an understanding of sobriety, do you really want to get sober or not, right? Do you really want to change your life? Are you completely ready? But I love it is because I actually had to learn that more. because I was forced in my sobriety. I mean, I was at the end of that rope, basically. Again, I'm shitting blood and I'm done. And I was at the lash of alcohol, where I had to make that decision that you're talking about, that conscious decision to say, I'm benefiting from this behavior, is when it was about relationships and behaviors and the struggle that I was in those things. The powerlessness over other people, for instance, right? Like I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I would call up my sponsors and I just complain. And then they would go, but even therapists, like, but do you really want to change?
Yeah.
And then and I was like, if I had to answer that question honestly today, I would say, at that moment, no. Right? I still want control. I still want, there's still something in there that, and I got benefits out of all those things. So I do understand that in that way. It's like, so that concept can be applied to just many different scenarios. Yeah, exactly. So it's, do you really want to change, or is it something that you're just intellectually entertaining that yes, you do, but do you really feel that way? Is it something that is in your heart? And if so, right, then you understand that you got to like really do some heavy lifting in terms of, do you have the power to change it all by yourself? Is it your job? Is it somebody else's, or is it a higher power beyond both of those things, right? How much can you really dig deep and figure that one out? Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard way to be.
I think the more desperate you are, and the more life and death it is, and the more that you're ready to change and know you need to change, you will put that same amount of effort into the program. So at least that's what I've experienced,
Yeah, I had to put it in everyday context. I had to live and breathe the principles that are behind all those things. I had to dig deep and understand what those things were, and why I was affected thusly.
Yeah.
All right, Lindsey, did we answer this person's questions, right? Did we support this Irish lady in her cocaine anxiety-ridden deal?
I hope so. I think that we gave some hope in exploring options and sharing our experience.
One thing we didn't say, which I want to make sure I say, is to I'll probably cut this and put it at the very beginning, make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. Call your doctor, right? Like, and be honest. That's like to me, I went in for a checkup at 6 months. Sorry, I totally interrupted you. So I went in for a checkup at 6 months, and I literally, I was honest for the first time ever. And because I was honest and I said everything, I went from square one. I'm like, I've been smoking since I was 8 years old, pack a day since I was 12. I started doing meth at 12. I did it every day for 40, you know what I mean? Like blah, blah, blah. And then I told him about the amount that I drank and everything. And dude, I got the most, exploratory workup that I've ever gotten in my entire medical history, because I was just honest for the first time. And then he was like, well, we better get you tested for all of this shit, buddy. I was just like, holy shit. So I did all these tests. Yeah, right. And I wasn't just lying to him, telling him I just had 2 drinks, So yeah, I guess I want to make sure I mention, hey, talk to your doctor, because
professionals.
Yeah, exactly. Therapists.
Yeah.
All the above.
And what kind of led me in this direction was being honest with a therapist for the first time ever, truly. And then guess what? When I was honest about my problems, I was suggested solutions to fit my problems, but I just wasn't ready before. So yeah, I think we provided a good outline and foundation.
Good. So we can sleep well in the world knowing that this person has been reached out to.
Yes, and I did send her a WhatsApp message as well. So.
Oh, did you send her a dick pic for me?
Yes. Exhibit A of the predatorial
just a picture of my face.
we were talking about. No, but I respect Carl. I respect Carl very much, because when he shared the information about this person, he said, I'm not comfortable reaching out to a woman. And I really, really respect
Give
that.
away my secrets now. I'm trying to come off as like a cool dude who can send some dick pics, and you're over here like giving away my secrets, Lindsey. I can't hide behind my persona.
Thing.
I know. I just want to, Yeah, no, it's true. I actually learned early on, which is really great. I had my first sponsor. He was a beautiful dude. There was a girl outside of a meeting once, and she needed gas and for her car, and so I was like, okay, so I had a gas can, and so I went and and I took her to get gas, and then I came back, and my sponsor who saw me drop her off, basically, saw me come back, and I went and got it back on the sidewalk, and he was like, who's that? And I was like, oh, just some girl. And he's like, don't you ever fucking get in that car ever again. Don't you ever allow that shit to happen. Because he's like, dude, you have a full-time job, you're making six figures. I was driving a BMW at the time, and he's like, don't think that she's not going to scream and try and get something out of that, right? And I was just like, oh shit, like it didn't even occur to me. I was just being so altruistic, and I kind of forgot. He's like, dude, you have a family to protect, and there's no reason for that shit to happen. And I was just like, wow, that really was like an eye-opener. And from that moment on, I've never 12-step without somebody else. Like there's always been somebody there that I know has my back, and that I don't do any, so I don't even go to another dude's without another dude present, so because I don't want weird shit like that to happen. So yeah, it's a really weird kind of. It was an eye opener for me really quickly to be like, oh, like that could happen, right? And so you need to always maintain yourself. So.
And for the men that say that they're helping, and that's why they help the men. There's plenty of men to help. Help the men.
Yeah. No, I've seen that too, and I think it's just a ton of bullshit, dude. You know another woman in recovery, give her the freaking other phone number, and see you later. If you're really upstanding.
And I have men who do that, and they connect me and say, I met this person at a meeting. I think you could relate. Here's her number.
Totally.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I would never. I'm never gonna offer to pick you up to go to a meeting, honey. Okay, whoever you are, you know what I mean. I'm just not gonna do it. And the dudes that are doing that stuff, absolutely wrong. Don't shit where you eat. It's absolutely not what you do.
It's so
yeah. Sorry
wrong.
to be judgmental, dudes.
Yeah, it's
unacceptable
awful.
behaviors.
But so you have vigilance and street smarts as you would anywhere else in your life, like you said.
Exactly. You can tell how passionate we are about those things too. Yeah, but thank you for letting my persona out, which is like I'm actually a nice guy. Which
you can cut it.
Now I hate you. No, I'm kidding.
I think it's important. We've said what not to do, and I think that it's important to see men who other men can look up to and show them the right way to do things, right?
Yeah,
so we said the alternative, and so I just wanted to say Carl walks the walk.
I really attempt to. Even though she's in Ireland and she's really not a threat to me at this point, I still wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah. It's just the principle of it,
Yeah.
So
totally. All right, yo.
You want to wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap it up. So if dude, what are you doing upcoming? Like again, keep in mind it's December 10th is as this recording.
Yes.
What are you working on? And then I really want people to hear stuff that you're doing in so that they can reach out and subscribe or go to your other things that you're doing in the outside world. By all means, please let people know.
Okay.
I think people would be happy to.
So we talked about the Artist Way at the beginning of the episode, and then I'll give one more offering that I'm super excited about. It's at Pure Fire Yoga in Bethesda in person. It's a winter solstice practice. So it's going to be on December 21st, the actual winter solstice, which is the darkest day of the year. We have the least amount of light.
Ooh,
and so
creepy.
I know. Gonna get witchy. So it's at 12:30 p.m. and we're going to be setting intentions, doing a little bit of yoga, doing some writing, because these times of the season, the equinox, the solstice, is a really powerful time to kind of walk into the next season with being really intentional about it. And I like to give people insight that they can actually walk away with and keep until the next season. So I usually do a fall equinox, spring equinox, winter solstice, and summer solstice. So December 21st, winter solstice, light in the dark is what we're calling it. And head into
nice. I like the name of that. That's a nice name.
Head into the new season and kind of get a reset before the holiday season. And see you there.
There you go. Okay, and I want to say it is December 10th, and if you are struggling, buy my book.
Yes, buy Carl's book. It's so good. It really is.
What I do want to say is that it makes for a good if you're struggling to buy gifts for people that are in recovery. Again, the book is a really a good gift. It's cheaper than you would get like a sobriety coin or whatever. It also makes a great gift for your Secret Santa sober circles or whatever if you're doing all that good stuff. But yeah, the book is definitely something that. I definitely worked hard on, and I am so proud of sometimes that I just kind of forget, like, oh wow, like it really took that much of an effort. And I love the topics in it some days. And actually today was like about some days just will be shit. I love how I start that off because like some days are just gonna fucking suck, and it's so true. And it just I love the reality that is just out there. So by all means, go to silverpod.com and then click on the buy the book. And then I don't know if I mentioned this on the last episode or not, but I released a journal that is a companion to the book, and so that journal is also available if you go to silverpod.com. And so what it is it's like line pages. It basically just has the reflection at the top, and it has some line pages so that you can write. But down at the bottom, I added like little more, I guess, sarcastic quips, or sometimes not sarcastic quips. I think it's a lot like the book actually, but just in like kind of like a 1-word or 2-sentence.
I love that. So it's interactive.
So it's a little bit more engaging, and there's a little checkbox to see if you've done the daily challenge or not. So you do need the book to utilize the journal, so it's a companion. It's not standalone. So by all means, and it's cheaper than the book just because of that. So, but by all means, you'll pick that up as well if you're going to get both of those books. That would be awesome. But that's it. That's all I got.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I will say my final 3 words that I like to end with, and that's trust your truth.
And I will have to add a word and say stay active.
Soberpod.com.
See ya.
Yeah. It was a sight to see them. Breakfast with Sprite and Seagrams. Wrestling with my vices, exercising my demons. My blessings were blocked, so I never got the message. I'm stressing, I'm only 12 steps from an exit. Regret it, because my imperfections were perfected. I ain't run from it, I accept it and rep it. It's a badge to me, good stories come from a tragedy. And when you survive, the glory will come in Act 3. The wait's over, 366 days sober. Morning affirmations that can start the day for you. Use my favorite bookmark for a placeholder. Finish when the day's over. Okay. Yeah, sober pod, keep it authentic, no facades. If it's real, then you know it's ours. Welcome.